Level Up and Live, the podcast that challenges conventional wisdom and empowers you to make bold choices in life and business. I'm your host, Sean Myers, joined by my co-host, Ewan Heinemeier. And today, we're diving into a thought-provoking topic, paid or free. Which room do you belong in? In a world filled with opportunities, it's easy to feel torn between investing in paid resources or relying on free ones. But here's the real question. Which room do you belong in? Join us as we explore the pros and cons of both paths and uncover the key factors to consider when deciding where to invest your time, energy, and money. Get ready to gain clarity and confidence in your decision-making process, because by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly which room you belong in.
I was scrolling through YouTube, and I remember seeing this muscular guy on the thumbnail. He was ripped, jacked, big muscles. And then it said his mile time and then his marathon time. And I was like, that's not possible, because you can't run and be big, right? Like, you can't run long distance and be big. And that's always been my concept of, that's just the old thought process. And I always was like, well, I'll never run a marathon because I want to have, I don't want to get skinny was my thought. I'm not like giant myself, but like, the muscle I have put on, I didn't want to lose from running. So anyways, I see the thumbnail and I'm like, very interesting. I'm very curious. Now, this guy is saying he's done. Actually, I had to play it. I was like, there's no way like this guy can do it. So I click it. His name's Nick Bear. We've mentioned him many times on the podcast. And so I watch a bunch of his YouTube videos. I really kind of get involved in his, as you do, you start following someone and you really start liking what they're saying. You really resonate and align with all the things. And so I want more from this guy. I'm like, well, what does he have to offer? I see he's got some supplements and stuff. I'm like, man, I wonder what his training plan is. So I sign up for his email list. And really, I think to myself, I'm like, I'm going to sign up for this email list because I know at some point he's going to sell me on something. So I'm seeing his emails. It's his training program. And I keep seeing it. I'm like, yep, I'll get to that. And I'm still running myself here. I'm slowly building up my speed. And I'm like, but I'm not wanting to pay yet. For some reason, I guess I wasn't convinced. Yet. I just realized that. And so I told Sean about this too, because he's running as well. I was like, man, you got to check this guy out. And so I send it to him. And the next time I see Sean at the run club, he's like, yeah, I signed up for that program. I'm like, what? Wait, I showed it to you. And I was like, and I was just about to do it myself. I was warming up. And then as soon as I signed up and I looked at all his exercise programs for staying big, muscular, strong, and being able to run, I was like, why did I not do this sooner? I know this. I know you get in the room that people are paying and you're going to get higher quality, as opposed to the free room, which I'd been in on YouTube. I learned all the tips and tricks, but when you pay to be in the realm of people who are also willing to pay, and the people who have put the thought into the product that it is that you're buying, you're going to get significantly more. And why? Why do we do it? It speeds everything up. You can take the long road or the fast road. And the only reason you pay to be in the room where other people are willing to pay is to speed up your progress to get to your goals. And that's probably one of the most recent experiences for me. And I'm talking about running there, but today we're talking about business ownership, entrepreneurship, and what room do you want to be in when it comes to your business and making monies. What do you think, Sean? Do you remember that moment?
I have so many thoughts going through my head. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, man. And that's what it really comes down to. And if I'm listening to this 5 years ago, I'm like, yeah, I'll just figure it out, right? And to a certain degree, you can figure it out along the way and be that DIY. But what you're thinking that got you to where you are today will not get you to where you want to be. Let me repeat
it one more time, dude. Say it one more time.
100%. Your thinking that got you where you are today will not get you to where you want to be in the future. It's a fact. It's a cold, hard fact. And the reason I can say that is because that was me. That was business owners that I've coached. And if you're listening to this and you're a business owner, listen up. We're going over 3 key components that we would look at as far as pros and cons. I don't like the word cons, but it is what it is because they're objections, and we all look at it from that viewpoint, right? And it's okay. We're going to address that today. So the 3, we'll go over those real quick. Make sure you stay to the end because we're going to go over those. The final one is kind of my favorite one. But the 3 was, we got high quality exclusivity, we've got support, and we've got motivation and inspiration. So we're going to dive deep into these, and then we'll go over the cons here in a second.
And to tie it into what it is that it does is we're talking about courses, coaching, mentorship, masterminds, hanging around with other like-minded people in the realm that you want to be successful in, the goals that you've set for yourself in business, entrepreneurship. This is what we're talking about. There's the free version and there's the head down, do it yourself. I'll muscle through. I don't need that stuff, versus the version of you that's like, you know what? Let me go get that speed button. Let me go push that so I can accelerate this whole thing. Drop the ego, drop the pride, and open up the mind to be able to expand and improve. Yeah. So yeah, the first one is high quality. When you hear that, what hits you there?
I got a story for you. So when I think of high quality, right? When I think of high quality, which is the resource, which is that curated content for that personalized individual like myself. Up until 35 years, I'm 37 now, up until 35 years of age, built businesses along the way. Again, goes back to what got me to where I was at 35 and building these businesses was not going to get me to where I wanted to go, right? As far as the thinking. Now, I came to a place where I had my back up against the wall. I was like, dude, I feel like I'm stuck. This is when I was unfulfilled. Me and you had this conversation 2 years ago, and you told me one thing that had changed the trajectory of my life in this way of high quality, personalized, curated support. And that was to hire a life coach. At first, I was like, no way. All these things started popping in my mind. Cost. Who is this random dude that I'm going to be hiring online? I know better than him. I can figure it out. I can DIY it. I can YouTube it. All these thoughts were going through my mind. But then it got me thinking like, wait a minute, I'm stuck. I can continue to sit here and spin my wheels over and over and over again, right? Or I can take this leap of faith. I can be in spirit here. What do I have to freaking lose, Ewan? Because what I'm doing right now is not going to get me to where I want to be. What do I have to lose? I've spent $1,000 on an iPhone. I spent $1,000 on a vacation or $2,000, right? Easily. And so I'm like, what's $2,000? What's $3,000 to hire somebody that can help me go slow to go fast, right? And I didn't understand this, but once I started getting curious, once I started doing the research and looking up what a coach, what a mastermind group, what these paid resources offer, I was like, oh, it's the exclusivity, it's the personalization, right? It's the high quality. So what I'm finding out is that everything that's on social media, newsletters, YouTube, and all these social media platforms, what I thought was these are all the answers, and they work to a certain degree. But where the secret sauce is, where that key ingredient is, where that this is good, baby, this is going to make the difference in my life, is when you take that leap of faith and you swipe that card and you get skin in the game. And I was scared. I was nervous. I didn't know if it was going to work. I did not know I was going to swipe this $3,000 card. I was going to pull it from my bank account, right? I did not know. There was uncertainty. I did not know it was going to work. But here was the key. Here was the key takeaway. What does Michael Jordan say? If you don't take the shot, you'll never have a chance of making it, right? And so that was my mentality. It's like, I got to take the shot here. I got to make this happen. So I swiped the card, I paid for the resource, and it was the best decision 2 years later of my life. Had the best last couple of years, new challenges, new obstacles. I've leveled up, and here we are today. But my point is once you go through that mindset of, hey, this is what I got to do to get to where I want to be, then you're going to get 80% of the way. I was never 100% like, yes, this is going to get me guaranteed results. I don't feel like.
I was going to say, it's like last week's episode, I think comes out tomorrow, risk versus reckless. It was the calculated risk. You weren't being reckless, but there's always risk involved in big returns. And you didn't know if it was going to work. And what I'm hearing you say there also is you had done what you had done all the way up until this point. And think about that for a second. There's no way that you can see what you don't know. And you have to have someone else involved to be able to see what it is that you don't know. Like we're talking about with Renee Bowen yesterday, we self-sabotage. we are working off of subconscious 90% of the time. Only 10% of the time are we conscious, right? So that 90% is subconscious. That is what we pay for, right? When you get a coach. And that's what you were able to find in such a short period of time. Think about how fast he when you guys work together, and same for your coaching clients, they come to you, and how fast do you get them that result, because you are this outside perspective that gets to shine the light on the thing that they cannot see and will never see until they take that risk.
Yeah. Every phone call, every message, every text message, every paid resource, I can honestly say I've never regretted not doing it, not actually taking that leap of faith, right? It's never been like, man, I shouldn't have paid that. I shouldn't have paid that $14. I shouldn't have paid that $250 membership. I shouldn't have paid for that $3,000 love coach. Those words have never come out of my mouth. It's like, they've always been like, I would have paid 10x that. Right? Every newsletter, every subscription, every paid resource, every room that I've ever been that I've paid for, right? I have been grateful. I've been thankful. And I've always said it deep down inside, like, I would have paid 10x that, right? Because like you said, it just speeds up that process. There's the road most traveled, and then there's the road less traveled. You go down the road most traveled. That's what most people are doing. You were doing it. I was doing it. But if you can get this figured out in your 20s and early 30s, and go down the road less traveled, which is the paid resources, dude, you're going to speed up that process and get to where you want to be. It's just forward thinking, backwards planning, and shifting that mindset, perspective, and shedding the light on the things that are blind spots in our life.
I remember it was about 10 years ago. Yeah. So to align with your point, it was about 10 years ago. I was needing to learn about a website. It was a business. It was Limu at the time, and we're working on getting people to drive revenue. And so we didn't know what we were doing, and we thought that was what we needed to do, but we were really confused trying to do it on our own. And so we were searching, just like you did, kind of looking what we needed to do. And we found this guy. It was kind of a big deal, and big organization, and it was $7,000 to have a coach to teach us how to do this. And it wasn't even specifically for that, but it was in general for the whole kind of thing. But that's the path we kind of went down. That's what we needed. That's what we wanted answers for. To be honest, it was not helpful. It didn't really. We did not get our money's worth. And I would say I'd put that on me, because we didn't know what we're doing. So what were we asking for? Was the coach great? I don't know. But here's the thing: I wouldn't change it. If I could go back and say don't do that, I would not do it. I would do it over again with the same results, because I learned so much out of that. Right, all the things, like, what am I looking for when spending money to be in the right place? What is my very specific purpose? I wasn't clear exactly what I was looking for, and I didn't put the energy and effort in that I needed to put in. So that also taught me something. And to speed that up, when I was getting into real estate, and we were flipping houses, and what ended up leading me to multifamily, I spent $5,000 on a coach there. And not the same thing, but this is when it got really clear. When I paid that money, I thought I was done. I thought the work was going to be done for me. In the back of my mind, I didn't realize this. I'm like, oh, I've paid. It's all going to work out. No, when you pay, that's when you get serious. That's when you get the information that you need, the blind spots that you can't see, to then go take that action, right? Big action. And it's still going to be difficult. But how hard is it going to be if you don't do that, right? How hard is it going to be on your own? So again, I would not change that. I learned so much out of it. I've thought about those things so many times, and what I learned was invaluable. And so now I know when I spend money for things that help me speed things up, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know the level of energy and effort that I'll need to put in. But I think a lot of people think that too. Oh, I've paid, it's done. But that's not how that works, right? It's just not. And so, but when you pay, the high quality of the shining of the blind spots is what you're paying for, right? That's the start. And then you have to go to work. But it's worth paying for. Otherwise, you never know what they are. And you keep doing, like you said, you keep doing what you've always done, and you'll just never progress. So, yeah, second point, man, the exclusivity. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, man. So for me, I feel like it's everything that we've talked about. And then when you get in that exclusivity, right? Meaning, like, typically you're going to come into these groups, you're going to come into these paid resources. Now you got skin in the game, you've taken a leap of faith. And so number one is you're in this group now. So if you're in a group, if you're in a paid resource like that, the community is not going to allow you to fail. They're not, the only person that is going to fail is you're going to fail yourself if you don't put in the work. Let me repeat that. Like you said, if you don't, you cannot, the only way you can fail is if you don't put in the work, right? You don't keep showing up. You don't keep putting in the mental fortitude, the resilience to keep making tweaks, to keep making adjustments. And this all comes down to the exclusivity, the personalized support, right? Because it's not one size shoe that fits all. Everybody's different, right? Sean, Ewan, everybody in the group, and even the resources that I have done over in the last few years, right? When I hired my coach, he wasn't talking to Ewan, he wasn't talking to anybody else. He was personalizing it, exclusifying it for me. Right. And for me, I had an ego. My pride and ego was just controlling everything. Sure, it got me to where I wanted to go. Look at any ego, prideful, human being, right? They're bulldozers. But the problem with that is, for me, it wasn't healthy. I was neglecting everything around me. And when you're a bulldozer, you just bulldoze down. And if you're not aware and mindful of that, it gets dangerous. And not to go off in the weeds, but man, there's people running our country. There's people, running businesses that are not aware of this, right? In their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And so it's just very unhealthy, right? And so for me, it made perfect sense, because he was able to personalize it for me, be aware of the ego, be aware of the mind, and then so I could correct course. And I kept showing up. And so that was one of the biggest, that's what it means to like personalized support, exclusivity for me, right? And then also on top of that, some of the things that he did share you in it, it wasn't like if if I showed up and it was a call, or if it was on a Zoom, if it was for 30 to 45 minutes or even a 60-minute phone call, it wasn't necessarily that I was taking all 60 minutes of what we were talking about away. And I was just filtering and using the barometer, right, on what it is that I wanted to apply in my life, that I was blind spots, and that he was able to shed the light on. So it was that different perspective. And then him personalizing it in that exclusive environment that allowed me to go slow, to go fast, and speed up the process. And just talking about it is just firing me up.
And man, I could almost say exactly the same thing when I hired an Enneagram coach, because I'm just a huge fan of the Enneagram. I just think it's one of the most powerful tools for understanding yourself. And I kind of looked on my own, read a bunch, saw what it was, that my number was a 3 achiever, all the things that go along with that. If you haven't done the Enneagram, I strongly recommend that you do that to understand yourself better. It will help you no end. But I wanted to hire a coach just to see what he could see that I couldn't. And man, it changed my life. It really, like, on a dime. He had me do certain things, had me look at certain things in different ways. And he put a stamp, he put a name, he put a sequence, a pattern together that I could never have seen on my own. And he put words, he put labels and names on the things I had been doing. And I was like, yes, that's exactly right. And he was like, and you and this, let's do this. And it will help you work on those things. And I came out of there. It was so strange too, because it wasn't specific, go do this and go do that. No, it wasn't that for me. He helped me. He uncovered things that I didn't see when I saw them. It wasn't automatically go do something different. It was a few weeks later, or even months later, I'd kind of realize I handled that situation differently. I showed up differently in that situation. And it was kind of almost very subtle, but I was able to relate it. If I did all the thought process, I was able to work it back to, that was from the coaching I did. I've been different ever since that one session. In that session, I'm a different person. I'm a human being that is showing up significantly more powerful, because the weight that was being carried with me is gone. I didn't even know it had been taken off, but that's what coaching does. And that's what surrounding yourself with people who are all after the same thing. That's just what it does. That's what you're paying for, right? You have to pay for that. No one can do that for free, because that's a skill that those people have learned, right? That's what we're paying for. They know what they're looking for. They know how to zero in, and what, like we said earlier, speed the whole thing up. Couldn't maybe find those things out on my own. Might have taken me 5-10 years. This guy did it in 5 weeks. you know, so
Well,
worth
and
paying
so
for.
yeah, it's worth paying for it, right? It's like it's like the old saying, it's like you get what you pay for. I mean, and I've always been a big believer in that on the business side of things. And even for my paid resources, like you get what you pay for. If you're going to be paying this, then expect this, right? And so, looking at it from that standpoint, going into our third and final key point there on the paid resources is the support. So what you got with him was the support, the continued support. It wasn't like a one and done, right? And so one of the things that I love about what we do here at Level Up and Live in the Mastermind group is that's that continued support. So whether it's a text message, whether it's an email, whether it's in our Zoom calls or our Google Meets, it's the continued support, because there will be a time, not if, but when, right? When you're tired, you're fatigued, something happens, right, in your life. It's happened in our group,
The
right?
sabotage, the subconscious kicks in.
Yes.
You getting up to high those higher levels of excellence, subconscious will kick in, and you'll try and bail, or things will try and come in, and the support, the group that you're with, really eliminates that
Yes.
significantly more than it would if you didn't have that group.
Well, it's almost a guarantee, right? Like, because you're going to have that other support, and you can't do it alone. And I'm speaking to myself, I'm speaking to my younger self. And so I remember when I had paid for my coach, I remember had not only had multiple phone calls with him, but over time. And then, and here's the thing, right? It's like you said earlier, it's like when you have this exclusivity, like if you're stuck in a rut for this one thing, okay, it's that one thing, then dial in, hyper focus in on that, and find that group, find that
Mhm.
person that's actually been through that, that's actually, has actually come out smelling like a rose, and has progress and an outcome from that. And that can be challenging, right? It's like finding the right group. If you're going to pay for something, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what? And so, and that's why with the going back to the support, man, for him, like I was able to reach out to him not only by email, but text message over time when I would start going back to the ego, the pride, right? Because it's like teaching old dog new tricks. You're going to find yourself going back to what you're familiar with, right? And there was times I picked my head up in 6 months, 12 months. I'm like, dude, I spent all this money, I spent all this time, but I'm going back now that we weren't
Mm.
having a weekly phone call, or I was joining our weekly Zoom call. I noticed myself going back to what I was familiar with and I had been doing.
What happens to the people who have been in the mastermind group and are no longer in it?
They're going backwards.
Every single one that we've watched, they've
Yeah.
they've they've gone to the upper echelons, and when they step out, slowly get back to that temperature that they were at before. And all the work that they had done has been undone. And they're not doing the things that they loved to do before, and they're back to the things that might be enjoyable, but they're not doing the things that fulfill them, that really bring them to where they want to go, that purpose in life. And that's true. Think about the people who go to the gym and they get great shape and they're on a roll, and they stop. What's happened to them? Man, you see them 6 months later and they've just lost all the work they'd done in their. It's almost never a good thing. It's just the same thing over and over. We're human beings. That's what human beings do. I know if I was not surrounding myself with the people who I know I need to be around, I would totally self-sabotage. I would totally go down the wrong path. If me and you weren't with each other, I would be way off of where I am right now. So I know it's good for me, and I know I need to do it. Right? It's normally for the things that you are not naturally good at, because we're going to slip to where the brain is comfortable, where the easy for the brain. That's what the brain wants, but that's
Yes.
not what is good for you, right? It's not good for me. And so I know I got to put myself, it's like a cold plunge, man. It stings. It's cold. You want to get out, and it feels horrible for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but you know the excellence, the goodness that it brings to you, right? And
Yes.
so doing that consistently, you get the returns.
Yeah, man, it's so beautiful what you're saying, is because it makes me think, like, with everything that we've talked about and plugging yourself into, because you become the product of the environment that you're in, right? And I preach that all the time. Think about this. Why do we go to church? Why do we read the Bible? Why do we do these things? It's because it's the person who we want to become. So we are the product of the environment that we're in. So if you're in the environment by yourself, good luck. It's a recipe for disaster. If you don't continue to plug yourself in every 6 months, 12 months, every single week, right? Sure, you can do it every once in a while. Go to church, take somebody that goes to church once a year, right? On Christmas or Easter. And then take somebody that goes to church, reads their Bible, plugs themselves in every Sunday, and goes there with their spouse. Which version is going to get the results that they want to get? Happy marriage, vitality, bliss, joy. I can give you that answer, right? But it's not for me to answer for that person, because I've been in those. I've been the guy that didn't go to church. I've been the guy that has been to church. I've been the guy that wasn't a part of a mastermind group. I've been the guy that has been. I've been the guy that didn't have a coach. I've been the guy that did have a coach. Which version you think is dominating and crushing the other guy?
Every single one of those. It's a no-brainer.
It's no brainer.
Mic drop. And what's crazy about that is we all know it. Everything you just said, we all agree, we all know. And then what happens when it's time? Hey, you want to be a part of this? Love to. It's going to cost X amount. Well, I don't know. I'm out. What? Why? Where does it come from? This hesitancy to pay, right? But think about, you're going to either be in the free room with all the people who don't want to pay, and they're all wanting to be in the free room too, or you're going to be in the room where people pay money, big money, some small, some big. I want to be in the one where people are paying the most, right? Because when I look over my shoulder and I look next to me, I got people who are also willing to pay that, because those guys are on a mission. They are wanting something very specific out of it, and they're willing to put their money on the line. First off, they have the money because they're the kind of people who have continued to do those kind of things. So yes. I want to be around those people in the first place, as opposed to the free room where I get a bunch of free. I can't trust. I don't know what those people's purpose is. I don't know what level it is, but I know exactly what level somebody's purpose and mission is when they're willing to put a price on it. And that's who I want to be next to, right? Because they're taking it very serious. And yeah, I honestly was going to say, and that's all I want to say right there, is I want to be in the paid room, man.
Yeah, man. It's all in the way you look at it, right? It's like you broke it down. Cost can be an objection. It can be whatever you want to put on it, whatever story that you want to tell yourself. And at the end of the day, like, you either think you can, you think you can't. Henry Ford says this: you either think you can afford it, you either think you can't. And so for me, it's just like, man, it's just the tool. Money is just a tool. It's just a byproduct, right? It's just a scorecard. It's just a tool, just like we use gas in our car, right? It's the fuel to get us to where we want to be. The money is the same thing. It's the tool to level up, to live our life, to live our best life, become a better version of ourselves, who we want to become in this journey of road less traveled. And especially if you're a freaking entrepreneur or an intrapreneur or a business owner. If you are a business owner, an entrepreneur, and self-employed, and you have a business, whether you have you're self-employed and you're just solo operator, or you have team members and you don't have a coach and you don't have a paid resource and you're in a mastermind group,
bananas.
It is mind blowing, right?
Yes.
The guys that are in the group are going to crush you. They're going to take your market. They're going to take your customers. It's plain and simple. Mm-hmm. If you are not surrounding yourself with guys like in a paid mastermind group and a paid resource, it's only a matter of time before you are irrelevant. And that was me for several years, is I thought I could figure it all out. And then I picked my head up and I was like, dude, I'm getting left. And not only left in like, I'm talking left in like the way my thinking was, the way my perspectives, the way like I didn't know what I didn't know. And so my back was against the wall. I was stuck. And the only way to continue to go forward is I needed some new thinking, Ewan. Let me repeat that. I needed some new thinking in my life. I needed other guys that have different perspectives, whether it was different ages or different businesses or different backgrounds, different experiences that were going to be that wanted to be in the game, not on the sidelines. See, that's where people criticize, the ones that are criticizing people that are in paid mastermind groups, coaching. The ones that are criticizing is because they're in the nosebleed sections, right? They're not in the game. You're on the stands. You
makes them feel better. It makes them, it justifies them not having to do it.
100%. You have no right to say anything, right? And so the guys that are showing up, failing forward, making mistakes, and spending the money, and those are the ones I want to hang around, right?
100%.
And so now you got me fired up. So yeah, cost is, man, look at it however you want to. So, and then the final two key points, Ewan, for we got number 2 is overwhelmed. It can be overwhelming, right? When we think about these paid resources, like, oh, I don't have the $250 a month. Okay, well, what did you just spend on your family of 4 to go out to dinner? 150, 200 bucks, right? So it's all in how you break this down. And I don't know if it was you that said this, but I heard this recently. Like, if it's important to you, you will find a way. So if you're a business owner listening to this, you're telling me that you don't want to do this, this, and this, a paid resource, that you're telling me that you're not, that is not important to you. Because your business, here's the thing, Ewan, here's the final mic drop. Your business will only be as good as you are. You are the bottleneck in your business.
100%.
Plain
and simple. If you don't grow, the business cannot grow.
No, it's just impossible.
You can't build a $10 million business if you have a $100,000 mindset. It's not possible. You'd have to increase it over time, right? I mean, it's just a fact. So, and overwhelm as well. Make sure you find the right room, right? We're not saying join ours. This is not a pitch for ours. This is a pitch for the one that you need to be in, right? This is what do you want, and then analyze, right? Because there's a lot of options. If you're e-commerce, right, and you want to have an e-commerce and you're selling stuff online, you'd probably want to be around e-com people, right? If you're brick and mortar or a local business, you want to be around other local business owners and brick and mortars, right? Because you have similar experiences and you have the same mindsets, the same goals, and multiple minds in the same room working on the same issues, developing skills, developing mindset. Those are the ones that are all going to excel.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming, right? And so, but it's not overwhelming if you're that person, that girl, that guy that's listening to this, you're like, you know what? One of the biggest things that we do at Level Up and Live is we teach in this group, right? We walk through the process, and we even have members doing it that are having that time freedom, that financial freedom, building the business that is the fruits of their labor, that is allowing them to live the life that they want to live, right? And they're building it, and we're with them in that journey. And that's a beautiful thing about it. If you're a guy, you're a doctor, a lawyer, whoever's listening to this, right? I don't care what industry you're in, business owner, self-employed, entrepreneur, and you're the one answering the phone calls, answering the emails, doing the sales, doing the marketing, good luck, right? And you're not in a paid resource. Sure, this can all be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Right? You can make the decision like that, take that leap of faith, go back and listen to this again and go, you know what? That makes sense to me. I want that time freedom. I want that financial freedom. I want to live the life that I want to live. I want to live the day and the week the way I want to design it. I don't want to have to feel like I have to show up at the business. I speak to so many businesses, even myself included, in the last 10 years, where I was like, dude, I'm doing all the work. I'm doing all the grind. I'm doing all the hustle. Well, I'm getting older. Things are changing. My body's changing. My mind's changing. My season of life is changing. So if you don't have a plan, if you don't do these things that we're talking about, man, yeah, you're going to be overwhelmed. But you know what? There's hope. There is a plan. We're solving that problem. We're solving that epidemic here at Level Up and Live. You got me fired up.
That, man. I am like, let me join in. I'm like, oh wait, I'm already part of it. I'm loving it, dude. Well, man, dude, I'm loving everything that you said. That we're going to be talking more about this going forward in the future, because our mission is to help people out there who don't know it's available, and they don't know what they don't know, and they have no idea what it could be like, and we do know what's available for them. So yeah, absolutely, man. Loved everything I heard today, dude.
Amen to that, brother. Level up and live.
Level up and live.
Tuning in to the Level Up and Live podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to our podcast for more insightful discussions. And follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Leave us a review on what you liked about the show. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend who's navigating the paid versus free dilemma. Until next time, keep leveling up and living your life. Level up and live. Let's go.